Good to go? All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 50th Space Wing Public Affairs Office.
Woo!
Yeah, there you go. That's right, we're live here at Schriever Air Force Base, Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm Greg Holmes. This is the third of four informal conversations that we've set up in support of our program that we're calling Built Schriever Tough. Now, we're talking to folks, Schriever people, who have somehow demonstrated a component of the Air Force Comprehensive Airman Fitness Program. Now, there's four components to that program, right? Social, spiritual, mental, and
Physical.
come on, physical, right. And that's what we're going to explore today, the physical aspect of the Comprehensive Airman Fitness Program, or Built Schriever Tough. Now, being in the Air Force does require some physical fitness, right? Everybody's got to do some push-ups and sit-ups, and you got to run a mile and a half at least once a year. But the guys you're going to meet today from Schriever Air Force Base, they've went a little bit beyond that. And before I provide some introductions, let me remind you or tell you that if you have any questions for these guys during the next half hour, get in contact with us here at the Public Affairs Office. The best way, go to our Facebook page at Schriever Air Force Base. Post the questions, and we'll get them answered for you right here. Okay, first, let me introduce the guys that we have with us today. First, we have Lieutenant Nick Guadalajara from the 50th OG, right?
Good
Standards and Evaluation.
Yes, sir.
Guadalajara, that's Dutch, or?
It's
No. Welcome. Let me tell everybody a little bit about Nick. For the first few years as an Air Force officer, he was a member of Four SOPs, go Four SOPs. But the LT is known for his exploits on the rugby field. He also earned Schriever's Athlete of the Year honor for 2012 after earning a spot on the All Air Force rugby team, correct?
Nice.
This year you earned another roster spot on the All Air Force rugby team, and I think that's your third?
Yep, third in a row.
Third in a row. The LT also does some coaching at the Air Force Academy, and I'm going to guess that it's rugby.
Yes, you're right.
All right, also with us we have Captain Colin Marin.
Hello.
And Captain Marin is a operator from one SOPs, used to be with two SOPs. I know you still have some love for those guys over there.
Sure do.
But that's not why he's here today. Today we're going to talk to him about his journey up Mount Everest as part of the USAF 7 Summits Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to tell us more about that,
Sure.
I'm sure. And just so that you know, one of the things that team does is they want to summit the 7 highest summits
That's correct, yeah.
and plant the American and the Air Force flag on top of those summits. And on May 20th, 2013, the captain came that close. And he's going to tell you all about it.
Almost.
Okay? All right, well, let's start off with some questions. First, let's talk a little bit about rugby.
All right, sir.
What's the competition like at the Air Force level?
Air Force level, we are. It's very competitive. Rugby sevens is a growing sport. It's going to be an Olympic featured sport in 2016 down in Rio de Janeiro.
Rugby sevens, that's different from...
It's different from the traditional 15 style. So rugby sevens is a much quicker paced game. You have 7 players on each team, 7-minute halves. That's basically an all-out sprint for 14 minutes. So it's a little faster moving, and you're playing on the same size field as regular conventional rugby, so it's a little more innovative in terms of individual player movement, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, real quickly, I know that when you see rugby on television sometimes, you see the real
Yeah.
big guys. Is that a component of this, or is it more faster?
It's definitely faster, more skillful players. There is still that component. You do need the big guys to kind of take the ball into contact and then go out wide for the smaller, faster guys. But it's still traditional in terms of how the game is played with rules. It's just a little different with the setup of the game.
Okay. So rugby, very athletic type sport.
Yes.
Definitely have to be in shape for that.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
right.
It's it takes a lot of fitness.
Captain Marin, I know that, I think it takes physical fitness to climb a mountain. I mean, I go
Yeah,
up
sure
Pikes
does.
Peak, but what's the big deal about Mount Everest?
Well, the particular thing about a mountain of that magnitude is it's demands a lot of endurance, I guess. So Pikes Peak is super long as well, but the incline, even though that would take endurance too, it's a lot shorter. You'd be done with that in like an hour. Everest takes 2 months to climb, so it's you're
different.
there for a long time. You're doing a lot of acclimatization, up and down climbs, so a lot of endurance, a lot of physical preparation that goes into it. In fact, the guy that put the team together, Rob Marshall, he specifically picked team members who had strong fitness components, and he asked everybody, "Hey, how have you guys done your Air Force PT test, because if we're going to get Air Force support, we want strong guys doing this. So.
Well, and tell us a little bit more about that team.
Well, it was comprised of 6 guys. We had one reservist who was a pararescueman, bunch of pilots. We had Captain Andrew Ackles, Major Rob Marshall, Captain Kyle Martin, Captain Kyle Klitsky, myself, and Nick Gibson, Staff Sergeant Nick Gibson.
I guess how did the team get established? How did you get the call?
Okay, so several years ago, Rob Marshall and another one of his friends, Mark Ubraga, they put this team together as a plan to make a positive image for the Air Force based on they wanted to kind of support airmen who had needs like coming back from combat and raising awareness for families who needed that sort of support from special ops victims. And so they said, how can we bring this attention to this in a positive way? And so they did something they knew that they loved to do, which was climbing mountains. So they said, let's put a project together where we go climb all the 7 highest peaks on each of the 7 continents. And it culminated with Mount Everest this past May. They brought the flag up there, and very, very pleased to be a part of that. So
Great. I know we followed that through the national news as well. I think everybody remembers that. All right, we've got a couple great athletes here. Again, we want your questions. If you have any questions or comments about these two, please get on the Facebook page, Schriever Air Force Base, post a question. We'll get it answered for you. If you're having problems with that, just get a hold of us here at the Public Affairs Office so that we can take care of you guys. Okay, tell us the preparation for climbing Mount Everest.
Okay. So Mount Everest is one of those things that takes years to prepare for. You can't just show up and have the skills and fitness required to climb it. You start with just like easy trail hikes, and then pretty soon you're doing harder and harder mountains. Then you start doing higher mountains and like glaciated peaks. And those sorts of things take years to do. You're not just going to do them all in a month.
How long have you been mountain climbing?
Several years, maybe over a decade now.
Yeah, okay.
But in the short-term preparation, so say you're about a year out or 6 months out, you start to hone your fitness specifically for that. So for Everest, I had to think, well, what is Everest going to be like while I'm up there? Well, I know it's going to be cold, and it's going to be long. So Colorado Springs offered a perfect training ground for that. I'd drive up to the top of Pikes Peak in the middle of the winter time, hike down to the tree line, put rocks in my backpack, and just go back up it. And it maybe was like -15 outside, or pretty miserable. We had the incline in our backyard, so I did that a bunch. Also, while you're over there, because of the extreme environment, you plan to lose a lot of weight. So I do a lot of hypertrophy style weightlifting, which is basically a bodybuilder style of weightlifting. So you're trying to recruit muscle growth. So that way when I was over there, I'd have muscle to lose, because I'm already not a very big guy. And while I was over there, I lost 15 pounds.
Wow.
So, so there was that type of preparation as well.
Wow. I know, too, you don't just step onto the rugby field and become, all Air Force. What kind of training is involved specifically with rugby?
I think it's a different sport in terms of the athletic preparation. Most sports that you have with the ball, you're passing it overhand, or a chest pass for basketball, for instance. In rugby, it's all underhand. So it takes a different sort of movement that it's kind of unnatural. So it takes a while to learn those types of movements. So that the basic skills of passing and figuring out when to pass, when not to pass, how to pass is a big component of that. From a fitness standpoint, lots of sprints, a lot of sprints. Sprinting is probably one of the key ways to increase your fitness for a sevens player. We do a lot of CrossFit type workouts, so that we're constantly keeping our muscle endurance up, and then coupling that with more anaerobic exercises. And that's pretty much what it takes. But we train for months out from a tournament. Our coaches give us a list of workouts that need to be completed, and they keep us accountable on that, and we hopefully will be prepared for whatever tournament we're entering.
Okay. It sounds like you both need a balance of physical fitness, both endurance and strength.
Yes.
Do you find that to be a problem to keep that up for what you guys do, LT?
I don't think so. I think that it's one of those things where you need to just kind of stay motivated to do so. If you keep balance in terms of making a commitment to yourself that I'm going to do this today and tomorrow, and then you make it kind of a habit, I think that translates to where you are more than good in every aspect in terms of fitness. And I think that translates well to any type of fitness, whether it's rugby or climbing Mount Everest or just trying to get ready for your PT test. As long as you stay motivated and committed to what you're trying to achieve, then it's going to come easier.
And I can see, LT, where you might see your results more immediate, even if it's a year out, even if training
Right.
to get on the All Air Force team. How do you keep your motivation up, Captain?
Well, climbing mountains has a very definite goal. You're trying to get to the top of something. So that in that respect, the motivation is there. It's like right in front of your face, I guess. And it also offers a metaphorical goal too. You know, climbing mountains is the metaphor that people like to use, putting one step in front of the other. But
One step at a time.
I mean, we all live here in Colorado Springs, so if you wanted to climb Pikes Peak and you wanted to train for it, you could see it every single day. You know, even when you're running your PT test, you can stare at Pikes Peak on the track, which is pretty awesome. And I guess I just have like an intrinsic love for being outside, so that's sort of a motivation that fuels me forward.
Okay, well, I like being outside too, but I don't know if I want to climb Mount
Yeah.
Everest. So maybe a little difference, right, everybody?
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to remind everybody, sign on, give us a question. Facebook, Schriever Air Force Base, and we'll get those questions answered for you. LT, let's talk about rugby a little bit more.
All right.
Or actually your sports background, I guess. What do you think your biggest achievement is as an athlete?
I think the level of talent that has entered sevens has become an exponential miracle, really. People are cross-training into the sport from the NFL. I've played against ex-NFL players. The level of competition there is incredible.
Wow.
And it's also increasing
Wow, it is.
in terms of Air Force members. More and more guys are getting aware of it, and we now have 3 players that were just asked to go train with the national team to potentially be in the Olympics in 2016. So just to be a part of that caliber of player is an honor in itself to me, and I think that's probably my biggest accomplishment, is just being able to compete at that level with those types of players.
Okay.
That's a good feeling for me.
Were you invited to participate
No,
in that?
I wasn't. But
Okay.
all of that's an ultimate goal.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody on the team knows that is possibly within reach, and that's something that everybody on the team is striving for. So we'll just see what happens and hope for the best, and keep training and pushing hard.
We hope you get
Yeah.
that far too. That would be great. Sir, at the beginning we said that you got that close
Mm-hmm.
to the top of Mount Everest, and in fact, that's one of the reasons you're here as part of Schriever Tough. Not only making the trek
Mhm.
and getting that close, but you had to make a very tough decision being that close to your goal.
Yeah.
Could you kind of tell us what happened?
Well, while I was in Nepal, I became really close with the local Sherpa, and Nepal is it's not the cleanest of countries. So when I was spending a lot of time with the Sherpa, I ended up getting a cold or a respiratory infection, and I knew it before we had started our summit push. And just to explain, the summit push at Everest, there's a very small window because you try to climb Everest in between the winter and the monsoon season, and they're constantly monitoring weather patterns on the summit. So you have a very small window, and when they tell you it's time to go, it's time to go. It's not like, oh, wait a few days for this to go away. And I put years of effort into this, and now is the time to go. So I was like, well, I'll just go as high as I can. So we left base camp. Get to Camp 2, I wasn't feeling that great. Had like a headache. Didn't have very good appetite. But I knew I could keep going because I knew where my own limitations were. I knew how far I could push it safely. Continued on to Camp 3, then up to Camp 4, and I had a tremendous support from my teammates. They knew something was wrong because physically I was not as strong as I had been the whole trip. And I was just hoping, hey, maybe I'll still be strong enough to get to the top, even with this this terrible feeling that I have. But it didn't end up that way. I ended up leaving Camp 4 at like 9 p.m., climbing out of the camp, and by midnight, I was at 27,000 feet, and I should have been at least another 1,500 feet higher than that just based on the time and the amount of oxygen we had available. I was going really slowly, and I knew just to be safe that I had to turn around because I couldn't talk. I was coughing constantly. It wasn't moving very fast.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing the math, staring at the watch, like knowing how much further I have to go, knowing how much oxygen I have available, and that's not the place to be second guessing yourself. You have to make decisions and live with the consequences, whether it's going to be, hey, I'm putting myself in harm's way, or I'm potentially going to die, or I'm going to be turning around on a mountain that I've put all this time and effort into.
Right.
And I was fine with that because I'm sitting here today. So,
well, in 1,500 feet, I think it's important to note at that 27,000 feet is probably significant. That's not a 5-minute walk.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So here, 2,000 feet. So if you drive at the base of the incline, you hike to the top of the incline. A fast hiker could probably do it in 30 minutes. Even an hour is a respectable time. On Mount Everest, going from 26,000 feet to 28,000 feet takes about 6 hours. So there's a pretty big difference in the time it takes you to go from, 1,000 feet of difference, I guess.
Sure. How close to the top were you then?
I was 2,000 feet shy.
2,000.
So I could basically
feet
see
shy.
it. I was basically standing at the bottom of the incline, looking at the top of the incline.
And just couldn't do it.
No.
Any regrets about that decision? What do you think about today? I should have went for it, or I did the right thing. I'm here.
Without question, I knew I had to turn around. I've been mountaineering long enough to know. That's what I was saying. It takes years of experience to acquire the skill necessary to do something like this. And that's why Everest is so sensationalized in the media and in literature and in, on like 60 Minutes programs. Because you have people that do go over there and try to climb it with maybe a year's worth of experience. And you see all sorts of reckless, dangerous decision-making occurring there. I mean, while I was there, I saw people dying. I saw people almost dying. Even when I turned around, where I was sitting, there was a dead body like 30 feet away from me. And I don't think Everest is necessarily a dangerous mountain like K2 or the north face of the Eiger. I think that all of these people who end up getting in these terrible positions are because they make really bad decisions.
Okay.
So I have no regrets about turning around, because if I would have kept going, I know maybe I could have made it, but it would have been at the expense of taking like some sort of like high altitude drug, because there would have been no way that I could have done it physically.
Okay. What's next? Are you going to go back? Try again? What?
Everyone always asks me that, and
Sure.
Even 6 months later, the dust still hasn't really settled in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I battle with it back and forth, like, it feels like a lot of unfinished business, but there's some better mountains out there. I love the experience. I love being over there, but it's also kind of a circus, and it also costs a lot of money, and so I think I'll just have to decide as my life goes forward. If I'm in the same place to do it again, maybe I will. If I grow into a different person, I probably will decide to do something else.
Okay.
But
I want to talk a little bit more about the team and maybe what they've accomplished.
Sure.
But first, I want to ask about, again, get back to the physical component that involves both you guys. Have you, John on Facebook asked the question if you guys were always at your peak physical ability.
Absolutely not.
Were you a 90-pound weakling and then went to the beach? What happened?
No. I
Okay.
mean, I grew up playing sports. That was one of the important things for my family. Was all of us boys would play sports, and there's a lot of leadership aspects, fitness, and that kind of thing that you can acquire from playing sports growing up. I don't think I'm at my peak even now. I think that there's always, the human body is an exceptional machine, and I think that we can always push it just a little bit more, obviously within reason. But I think that's the goal, is to just keep pushing as much as you can and strive to be the best physically. In my mind, I will always keep pushing my body until I can get to that peak performance. So, and if I never meet it, then that's fine because I'll keep pushing for it.
Just keep pushing for it.
Nice.
Captain, any comments on that?
I couldn't agree more. One of my favorite quotes, and I can only ever paraphrase it, is you really only know yourself, like your true self, when you're pushing yourself beyond the limitations that you had previously placed for yourself. Because everybody thinks that, hey, my limits are here, and then they get to that and they're like, wow, I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was, and you break through that wall, and then you set your limit in another place, and you're striving to get to that place.
Well, let's talk about that. I know we just talked about that briefly, and you're not really ready to make a commitment maybe to the next mountain.
Yeah.
But for both of you, what do you see next as your next challenge athletically or physically?
I know for me, I've got tournaments coming up next year. It's, as I said earlier, it's getting more and more competitive, and my goal is to just show up to the camp and be as fit and as good of a rugby player as I can, and just keep pushing myself and trying to be a better player, and hopefully I'll make the team again this go around, and it'd be quite the honor. So that's what I foresee in my future in terms of something that I'm striving for.
What you're striving for. Sir, anything that you can tell us about?
Personal training and physical training is something that I'm pretty passionate about as like an armchair hobby. I'm not I didn't study to be a physical therapist or a personal trainer, but I find training fascinating, and the things you can do with the human body, and like physiologically how you can change it to achieve whatever goal you're training for. And you can employ this for the PT test really easily. I think a lot of people they struggle finding a direction or like a place to start when they're training. I always just say, the easiest thing to do is decide what your goal is, and then outline a set of steps to get there, and just start at step one. And the best way to do that is to be specific about it. So if you were trying to get better at the run, and the 1.5-mile run, to be specific, go do that. And if you feel like I feel like I can do the 1.5 miles, but I just want to get faster, then do speed workouts. If you're like, the 1.5 miles doesn't, it's hard to do that, it's like I can barely finish it, then go do like a 3-mile run so that a 1.5 miles doesn't seem so far. I mean, there's things like that you can do.
Well, we can read a fitness magazine and get about 1,500 different.
Oh yeah.
Hey, workouts. Do this. Do this. Let me ask you, LT. How do you get started on this? How do you get started?
For prepping for a fitness test?
Well,
or
to be physically fit.
Get off the couch and go work out. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's pretty simple to get started. You know that you have two types of workouts. You can do an aerobic or an anaerobic, or you can couple the two. And I think it's important. The fitness test obviously is centered around both portions of that. You have the anaerobic in terms of the push-ups and the sit-ups, and then you have the aerobic with the run. Go do both. Get out there and work out. Many supervisors offer all of us, some time every day to go hit the gym and go hit the treadmill, go run around the track, and I think that we should be utilizing that time if it's available to us, so that we're all passing our PT tests.
Well, obviously you guys are in good physical condition. You've recovered, I hope, fully.
Yep.
How does this help you in your daily duties, in your daily activities, in your career, being physically fit?
I think one of a component that people look at when they're assessing an individual is they'll look at PT tests, and I think that it speaks to the type of caliber of a person you are in terms of, are you pushing yourself physically? Do you push? That generally translates to a person who is driven all the way around. So I think that that's a sign that a person who is driven physically, they'll also get it done in the workplace. And I think that that's something that I've taken to heart, is pushing myself physically, but also striving to be better in my job on a day-to-day basis. And I think that mental toughness that you gather from being physically fit also helps you in your day-to-day duties.
Okay.
You know, referee, you're more attentive to what's going on, and I think it's better for everybody all the way around.
I know, and you mentioned a different component of the Comprehensive Airman Fitness Program is also involved in your life. Did you experience that as well, trying to climb that mountain? I know it takes a lot of physical endurance, a physical strength, but what about mental capacity?
So those components, I don't think I've ever really done anything that's solely one or the other. I mean, some are more than the other, but certainly if you're doing something physical, it also requires an immense amount of mental toughness, and they're usually positively correlated. So if you're doing something that's harder physically, it's going to be harder mentally. And Mount Everest, because it's so long, I felt like it actually was harder mentally. I mean, we were just sitting in base camp a lot of the time, like trying to keep our wits about us as far as keeping our motivation up, keeping our morale up, and keeping our confidence up.
Right.
And even while you're climbing, it's not like you don't go from point A to point B in 5 minutes and you're done. It's like hours that you're trying to like encourage yourself and encourage your teammates.
Going and going and going, one step at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very quickly, we're almost out of time, but John on Facebook asked a question. He wanted to know about the rugby craze. Is rugby becoming more popular?
It is.
Is rugby sevens going to be what we're all watching soon?
I have a bold prediction that after the Olympics in 2016, rugby will be one of the major sports in America. It's a very fast-paced game. There's a lot of scoring. It's very quick, and I think people are going to enjoy. It's a short game, so you can watch one game, see two awesome teams, and then go right to watching another 15 minutes later. It's very fast-paced, and I think that's going to catch on very quickly in America.
Okay. Well, and there are some that say if you want it to be really tough, you should do it on ice skates.
Oh, man.
No. Anything you guys want to add? We just got a couple. Oh, we got another question. But anything you guys want to add?
I just want to thank Schriever, I guess, and TUSOPS specifically, because I was in TUSOPS when this happened. The support that Schriever gives is amazing, and the unit here, I couldn't be happier to be a part of the 50th Space Wing. So
Great. LT?
I'd like to echo that. Without the permission from my supervisors all the way up the chain, I would not have been afforded the opportunity to compete for the Air Force. And I'm very blessed that I was able to be an ambassador for Schriever Air Force Base to participate in these
Nice.
these sport teams. So.
I got one question. It says, what was your diet?
Oh,
I mean, you were eating like crazy, right? Because you were trying to gain some weight.
Yeah, I mean, we were constantly losing weight. Doesn't matter how much we ate, and we were stuffing our faces. They say you're supposed to lose your appetite when you go high, but the Air Force guys, we were constantly shoveling food in our faces.
Not Snickers bars, I hope.
Well, Snickers bars were a big part of it.
Everybody likes Snickers bars. Sir, do you have a specific regimen that you follow?
Yeah, I'm pretty healthy with how I eat. Generally, my portion sizes are a decent sized portion of protein, and then I'll do some sort of a vegetable dish and maybe some fruit, some small starch. But I'm pretty regimented in how I eat and try to eat fairly healthy. So.
Okay, so you don't just work out like crazy so you can have that
Eat
chocolate almond ice
cheeseburgers.
cream. That's
Right.
what Jennifer does.
No, I try to stay pretty healthy. So.
Good. Hey, fellas, thank you so much. Couple Academy graduates here. Great stories, great information. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for
Thank
having
you,
us.
sir.
Yeah, you bet. Listen, this is, like I said, this is the third one. We're going to do this 4 times. Next week, we're going to talk about spiritual fitness as a component of Built Schriever Tough, just in time for Halloween, although I don't think they have anything to do with each other. Patrice Clark will be here doing the interviews. Watch for updates on our Facebook page. That's Schriever Air Force Base. And if you have a story that needs to be told or have questions about these guys that you need answers to, contact us here at the Public Affairs Office. We'll get you some answers. I'm Greg Holmes. This is the 50th Space Wing Public Affairs Office. That's right. Remember, we're going to make you famous.